Today we are going to talk about code connectors. We have looked at our change detection process. We have looked at what a code connector is all about. It's a template, it's a packaged connector, and we use it. We configure it as per our specific requirements. We will see how to configure that code connector and how to extract the information from Workday and then how to send it out to an external system. This is what we are going to do. This one is slightly different because this is a packaged connector. So what is a packaged connector? How do we create an integration system, etc.? That we will discuss in the next couple of sessions. So, before we actually go ahead and create our code connectors, let's look at the requirements. So first, let's say that we want a few fields to be part of our output. So first of all, we will put down some requirements. So let's say, in the output file, we want some specific information about the workers, right? Because we have a lot of worker information in Workday. So let's say in the output file we want the data like the first name, right? We want the last name of the worker. We want the gender. We want the medical status, right? What else can we need? Maybe the email address? And then we can look for the hire date and the original hire date. Then let's also have the business title. And let's also have the worker type, okay. And maybe the total annual base pay. Alright. What else can we have? Of course, if we have the base pay, let's also put in the base pay currency. And let's also include their Workday account or their Workday ID, which is the ID that they use to log into their system. And let's also put in the initials, or maybe their username, right? So let's put all these fields in our output, okay? So if you had to do this using an EIB, what would you do? If this is the output file, what would you have done? If it was an EIB, if you chose an EIB to have this output, we create a report with all these fields, right? And some of these may be delivered fields. Some of these may be calculated fields also in the report. And then we will create which direction will be the EIB, inbound or outbound. Outbound, right? And then we will choose the output format, whether it is an XML, or whether it's a CSV, or if at all we need a transformation, etc., then we will do that and we will send out the information. So now here in our connectors, we don't need to have that custom report as our source of data, because it is going to use something internally, because it's a packaged connector, right? Most of the work is done for us. We don't have to create any custom report, etc. We don't have to create in simple terms. We don't have to think about the integration with Workday, right? The actual nitty-gritties of connecting to Workday and getting that information. We don't have to think about that. We have to think about which fields we want. We have to select that. And we have to configure the transformation if necessary. And we have to configure the change detection and those kinds of things. Actually, how it connects to Workday to get the data. That is not our concern because that is handled by the connector itself. That is why we are using a connector, okay? So let's say we want this field. So now what we will do is we will go into Workday. We will create our code connector worker integration template and we will see how we can use these fields or how we can select these fields and create the output. Okay. So we go to Workday. Now in Workday. This task, I mean to create an integration. Our task would be create integration system. Okay. Create integration system is the name of the task that we will take to create this particular integration system, right? Remember that in EIB, what was the task that we had used? Create EIB. Right, but it was a specific kind of integration system that we created. It was an integration system anyway, but it was a specific type of integration system, an EIB. But here we are going to use the task, create integration system. Okay, create integration system. So it asks you, okay, what is the name of the integration? And it also asks you, what is the template that you are going to use? So when we say template, we look at the templates here. What are the two types of templates that we have? Two broad categories of templates. One is a connector and the other, which is more specific, is specific to a named third party or application. It is an end-to-end connector. Right, it's an end-to-end connector. And then we have the more generic packaged connectors, like the core connector worker. Okay. So let's look at one of them and you tell me whether it is a connector or an end-to-end connector. Okay. So let's say I go here and let's look at a few. So let's look at the first one, Advantica, Tentel, and Vision. What do you think this one is? Is it an end-to-end connector, or is it a connector or a generic connector? Specific for Advantica? Maybe right, because Advantica looks to be the name of a particular company. What about this one? Aflac Supplemental Benefits. Aflac, right. Aflac is a popular benefits provider in the US, right? Anthem, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Life Disability. Or maybe what about this one? Anthem, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Midwest or Indiana, Ohio, I think, Wisconsin, Kentucky, and Missouri. What is this? It's specific, and that, too, for a specific anthem, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, right? Not for the general North America, it's only for some specific states, right? What about this one? ANSI X12-834? That looks more generic, right, because we can get it, and then we can configure it as per the requirements of our N? See? So ANSI X12-834 looks like it is mostly catering to the international or maybe the American standard, which is the X12 ANSI standard, right? The American National Standards Institute. ANSI. So it is more suited for that ANSI generic standard, right? So anybody who understands 834, maybe we can send that file to them. Not specific to any named third-party application or service. Similarly, if we go for, let's say, for third-party payroll, right? What about this one? ADP Payforce. Is it a generic one or a specific end-to-end? right, it's specific ADP Payforce for the Payforce service right. It's only for the ADP Payforce application, but what about this one payroll interface, or maybe payroll effective change interface? How about these two? Does it have a name? Payroll interface. Not for a specific end system, right, it's more generic. So this is the PI, this is the PG, if you may have heard about it, a PG or a PI. These are payroll integrations, payroll interfaces, okay. Let me show you a few more. What about, let's say, even for H, C, M? Let's look at a few. ACA, Information Returns 2020. ACA Information Returns 2021. What is ACA? Affordable Care Act. Obamacare, also known as Obamacare right. So ACA, if you were to file the returns as per the specific requirements for that particular year. So you can choose this. So what is this? Is this an end-to-end connector, or is it mostly like a generic connector? Specific one right. It's specific for A for the Affordable Care Act, and that too for a particular year right. Because there may have been changes over the years, so as of 2021, there may have been different changes that have happened in terms of information that is required. So this is a specific end-to-end connector right.